Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Bears Den presented by Warm Media and Sports Zone Chicago. I am Saul Rodriguez, joined as always by my co host, Joe Tanksley, who you see on our Bears coverage all season long, as well as Shawn, who is our head Bears reporter. And you can see him as well as host of Sports Zone Chicago, Shawn and Maya. Today, hey, guys, how we doing? There's a lot of stuff that has happened since all three of us have been on the show with the combine and all that, and the trade in this week. But most importantly, how are you fellas doing? How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing pretty good. I can't complain. It's a lot to talk about, so I can't wait to get to it.
How about you, Shawn? How are you doing, man?
I'm doing wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Great CrossFit workouts this week. I'm excited. Nobody knows jack spit about what's going on, even though they want to say they do. And I think it's a great situation for RyanPoles because he is putting on a master's class on how to be a GM.
Yeah, that's the one thing, like as looking at other sports and how some GMs work better in silence. I mean, it's like RyanPoles, the way he does things in silence, but also says stuff to the media. And hopefully out of the rabbit's head and all that. It's gonna be intense. But I will say, to start off, pertaining to the Bears, we're gonna get to a lot of things. We're gonna talk about Jaylon Johnson. We're gonna talk about the trade the Bears made as well. A little bit about the draft picks, and if we have time, we'll get into the QB carousel where we're talking about where we think Kirk Cousins is gonna go, Baker Mayfield, etc., and all that. But we'll start with the combine. Of course, was last week in Indianapolis. What were you guys' overall thoughts on that? Did the combine, sway you to a player you weren't familiar with? Obviously, more pertaining to the Bears, but obviously overall as well. If you have a thought on the combine as well, whether it's Caleb, not talking or just the amount of players not participating, the way some talk about the combine in general, saying like, hey, it's moving towards the NBA combine where a lot of players don't participate. And then you also have situations where like Rome Odunze, may have surpassed Malik Neighbor, some say, with his performance in the combine. What were your guys' thoughts on that? Joe, we'll start with you.
You know what? The combine really didn't sway me in any direction. I do think the one generational talent, that's been thrown around really, really loosely. When we talk about this draft, but I still say that Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably the most talented player in this draft, and I think he would look really nice in the Bears uniform. But even though, still, I mean, this is it came out that this is a really deep draft for wide receivers. A lot of good playmakers out there, and also for offensive linemen. So I'm looking for the Bears to add to that team in those positions. Primarily, and get you some blue players that can, step in right away and help the team.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's kind of like, for example, in other sports, with training camps and all that, and just getting into the groove of things, even like with baseball and spring training, you can't get carried away with the stuff you see there, but then also some of the tidbits might help you in just reading a player and just what type of player he is. In particular. But Shawn, what were your thoughts overall on the combine? And was there anything that stood out to you, whether it relates to the Bears or just in general to the combine itself?
Nothing really. It's guys running around in shorts or, compression gear. Really. The bottom line is you got to go check the film, check their tape, and see what they're doing. Just because you run X amount of, for whatever, doesn't mean it translates to the field. Does that, the shuttle and all these other stuff, like everyone gets so excited about that. Okay. But watch the film. Watch the film. That'll tell you everything you need to know. And I'll tell you what, the NFL has done a phenomenal job of making this an event. All right. This wasn't a big thing 15 years ago. All right. This wasn't a big thing. Now it's huge. All right. In Indianapolis, a little, Midwestern town, people come in for a week. You talk about the infrastructure. You talk about what it does, the influx of cash flow to the community. All the people that come in, the hotels that get used up, that get booked, all the restaurants that get have reservations, all the little things that go on there. It's an event. It is literally an event just to watch people run around in their compression gear. All right, jump high, bench press, throw a football, on air because you're not going against most people. So it's a great thing that the great way the NFL has done it. I don't really take too much out of it when people say, "Oh, his stock went up." Okay,
Mhm.
what did he do when he played? What did he do when he played in college? Not what can he do when he's running on air or throwing on air or catching the ball with no defensive back on him. What can he do? So yeah, the combine's cool. I like it as an event. All right, it's more for the fans than anything. Maybe get a measurement here or there for someone, or maybe get the medicals for someone that you may be interested. Excuse me, I'm sorry, who you may be interested in, but other than that, it's not for me. It's not a big thing. I don't really take much out of it. Regardless of who ran a 4.21 or who bench pressed 75 times or had a whatever. That's fun. That's fine and dandy. I need to see you on tape.
Exactly. That's I think. So what a lot of people do is they'll see this, as an opportunity for the guys that aren't talked about, in general, right? Like a lot of the stars, sit out, and a lot of the guys are out there trying to prove something. So that's the things I like to see is the guys that aren't talked about a lot kind of make a name, or kind of not necessarily make a name for himself, but kind of put his name out there. And I think that's the one thing I like. But you're right. In the event, I mean, I was there in Indianapolis on Monday, but it wasn't for the combine. I was there for another reason. And I just saw, just seeing the amount of people already there, with in NFL gear, and just seeing all the fans. It was crazy. And this is a city that just hosted the All-Star game recently too. I was able to catch a Pacers game and just see the arena and all that. It was pretty
Big
fascinating.
Year.
But yeah, exactly.
Big year for Indianapolis. So. Yeah, and you know what? It is good for the smaller guys. Because at that point you can see. Because if you're a 1AA guy, or you don't play much, or you're in a small Power 5 or a small, smaller conference like the Big Sky, and they see you dominating. Okay, well, you're like, okay, first and foremost, you got to dominate at a lower level, but also you want to see, okay, you're dominating, but how is it a dominating? Like this guy runs a 4.7, so you run a 4.6, so you look like you're really fast. Okay, but you run a 4.6, and with the big boys, that's not going to go over very well. So. I think it helps because this guy runs a legit 4.4. Okay, now this could translate to the next level. So it's really good for a lot of people to get exposure, especially guys who play against not Power 5 talent. So you can really see when he's running the ball. Okay, he's this fast. When he jumps hot, wow. Okay, he did this. It definitely has its benefits. I'm not poo-pooing the whole thing. All right, but most of it.
No, you're right on that. I think in a lot of the talk has been, is it dying? Like people have talked about it, like in the sense of the player wise, because a lot of players are participating, talking about it and all that stuff. But how about from that standpoint? Because a lot of the conversations have been, for example, like, oh, Caleb Williams and talking about that's a red flag. There's certain players and all that. Like as much as I know, you guys have said you guys have put too much stock into it, but when it comes to those little things, is that something maybe you put up on the side, like as a sidebar to those players? Like, hey, he's not, maybe he's not good with the media and stuff like that. Like, do you put it like that with Joe, or not really?
Not really. When these guys are, with all this NIL money now, and these guys are essentially, professional athletes now, with the kind of money that they're making. And, like Shawn said, it's really what's on tape. It's nothing that Caleb Williams can do out there to improve his stock. He for all that's said about him, he really did, go out there and leave it all on the field, during his college career. Same with, Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, it's the tail is in the tape. And so when you have players of that talent level and that skill level, it's pretty much just, like Shawn said, guys running around in shorts without competition. I think, it's good to see how guys' athleticism is matching up with, guys that are in the NFL already, and what this guy's going to do, and kind of compare and things like that. And I do think, like you said, some guys in smaller schools can really, bolster, their stock a little bit. But for the guys who have been, big time players for a while, it really doesn't help them.
What about you, Shawn? Anything like that you put in on the side just to be like, a little note, I'll do that? Or is that also another thing too that you don't really put much stock into either?
Well, these guys, Joe just mentioned that these guys are pro athletes coming out of college. All right, you got $10 million, like what was reported that Caleb Williams made in NIL money last year. No, you're going to come in feeling a little entitled. You're going to come in, a little more. I don't know, not want to say demanding, but you can be more selective in what it is you want to do. He knows at that point it's nothing can happen except he can ruin his stock. His draft stock could fall. So what's the purpose? His medicals. I get it, but also, you're the first person in the history to decline medicals. You're there, and so why even go? That's my whole thing. Why even go? I think that they, it bothers me a little bit. I'm a little, kind of get off my lawn type of guy, but if you're going to go, then participate. If you're going to go, then you participate and take the medicals. And if not, then you can't go. Period. End of story. I think it was more of a PR thing for me than him. Cause remember they were making all this big fuss about, oh my goodness, he was the last person to leave the field because his public image had taken a hit. So his PR people said, here's what I need you to do. I need you to go out there and look like you're supporting your fellow combine mates or whatever you want to call them. All right. Stay out there, support, make it look like you're a great teammate. Dude, listen, it was all a ruse. All right. I was born at night. I wasn't born last night. So save the nonsense. Okay. He's basically just trying to rebuild his image. All right. Mm-hmm. So, but you're going to get athletes. And unfortunately, I think this is the way that it's going to be. Athletes are going to start, you get $5, $7, $10, $12 million. You come in like, yeah, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. You know what? But what I did think was obviously smart was, he said he's going to give the medicals to the teams that that are most likely going to draft him. But my question to him is this, he's like, there's only, all 32 teams can't draft me, but you don't know which team will. I understand there's a range, but you honestly, you really don't know who's going to come and draft you. So I just think I don't know. I just think it's a little entitled, a lot entitled, but that's today's athlete. That's today's athlete with the NIL.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was a lot of the talking points I've seen of people in the conversation with Caleb Williams and just Chicago. Obviously, we're infused in that, and as well as so much is going on with that, and people are talking about it. So, no, yeah, you guys brought up some good points, and kind of shifting more top now specifically to the Bears. They made a trade this week, and we will get to that. Announced yet, but another thing that they announced this week was Jaylon Johnson. They franchise tagged them. He's a second team All Pro cornerback. Even with that, it was reported that these two sides are still in the middle of discussions. Are you guys optimistic that they're going to be able to agree on a deal, or are you satisfied with the fact that they were able to place this franchise tag on him just so you kind of have more assurance that he's going to be here in 2024? Has that shifted your optimism in any way, or are you still, or you're still maybe a little skeptical of the whole situation? We'll start with you, Shawn.
Well, he's going to be here in 2024. All right. Mm-hmm. It's a conditional franchise tag. So a non-exclusive, but I say conditional, non-exclusive. Mm-hmm. So he can negotiate with other teams. And if somebody wants to sign up to a sheet and the Bears don't match them, then they get 2 first-round picks. All right. So no one's coming up off of 2 first-round picks for Jaylon Johnson. I hate to break that to you. So it was just a strategic move by the Bears. He's going to be here. All right, he's going to be here, and all it was they couldn't get the final details. Again, this is my opinion. I don't have a source. I just have common sense. All right, is this that they probably had some last minute details that they were going back and forth on. Okay, they couldn't get it done, so the trump card or the big joker for all my Spades players in here. The big joker was I got the tag. All right, I can tag you. We don't have to worry about it. We have until July 15th, I want to say, okay, before the tag has to be removed, or before we can work on an extension. Excuse me, and so we have that time. So we have months to get an extension done. Okay, right. So it's cool. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it at all. All they did was buy time. All right, and hopefully they get it done sooner than later to get it out of the way. But they have until mid-July to get a deal done. And like I said, no one's going to come up off of 2 first-round picks for Jaylon. If they sign him and the Bears let him go, then the Bears will get 2 first-rounders. They're not doing no team. No team is going to do that.
Yeah, and that's the way I felt about it. It's more about when and not if they're going to do it. It's just about
Yeah.
when they're going to do it. So, what about you, Joe? How did this change any of your or change your stance in the way with Jaylon Johnson, or is it more kind of gear into the way of optimism?
You know what? I kind of always felt that this was headed towards a franchise tag,
Hmm.
and Shawn did a great job of explaining the non-exclusive tag, and it just pretty much reassures the Bears that Jaylon Johnson is going to stay in the Bears uniform, and
Hmm.
it's you know like you said, it's the big joker, it's the trump card. And so I think they'll get it done. I think they'll get a deal done. It's going to be a fair deal that I think works out for everybody. So it's beneficial for everybody to get this deal done before July. So
Yeah, no, yeah, that's what I'm hoping for too as well. They're able to get a good deal, and I think Jalen Johnson, as we know, he better than anybody knows his worth, and he's mentioned it in some of his post game conferences and all that stuff, and so I'm definitely interested to see what the Bears do with that. The Bears did make a trade as well this week, and they made a trade with the Buffalo Bills. They traded the fifth round pick of the draft for Bills center Ryan Bates. This is a guy that Poles really had an eye out for in the 2 years ago when he hit free agency, but the Bills matched the Bears' offer of 4 years, $17 million, and he went back. What role do you guys think he's going to play in this upcoming season? Because I've heard people say, oh, this is just a depth piece to whatever the Bears are going to add free agency or the draft or whatever it is. How do you guys see Bates fitting into the Bears roster? We'll start with you, Shawn.
I think he's going to be. He'll probably be the starting center for now, and I hope they draft one, which would be great. Which would be great. You draft one, and then this is good because now you have a youngster, either whether it's JC PJ JPJ. I can't remember Jackson Power Johnson. Yeah, JPJ. I couldn't remember the name, the initials. Or you got Cedric Van Pran from Georgia, or you got uh, Fritz from West Virginia. One of those three are going to be good. So you draft one, you keep a veteran, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to put a rookie in charge of making calls. You don't want to make a rookie in charge of reading all the line calls, especially when he's not familiar with professional defenses. Okay, you have this guy who's played center before, and so the thing I like about it is this: you go draft a center, have him develop under this guy, get some series here and there throughout. Obviously a lot in preseason, but as a game start, okay, get a series here, get a series there as it goes on. And if something happens, because we know Tevin Jenkins has not finished a full season, okay, so now the center, now the center that we signed can go to Mr. Bates, can go to a guard spot, bring the center in, and he still doesn't have to worry about making calls because you got the guy next to you who'd been making calls up until that point. So you're covered there as far as proper line calls and protection for Justin or whoever, and it just works. I like the signing. He's played all 5 positions on the line. He's good. He's really good at the inside 3. So I think it's a great signing. People are mad, and some people are silly, and they're like, "Whoa, this is the only thing." Like, it just started. Relax, but this is something that's very necessary to keep Justin or whatever quarterback we have, keep him upright.
Well, I think this is a very important depth piece for the Bears. And like Shawn mentioned, he does play, all 5 line positions, but he's very good on the interior of the line. And Tevin Jenkins has not played. He gets hurt a lot. And Nate Davis, he missed a lot of games as well. So having somebody that can come and fill in, and be solid at that position is, very good for the depth of that offensive line. And you increase the talent level as well. I think, something to be said that, Ryan Bates wanted him 2 years ago, and then he went and got him 2 years later. I think that, says a lot about what he thinks about the depth of the offensive line at this point. And, I fully expect him to go out there and, and draft, a center and maybe another tackle as well. So I think, improving the depth of that line. And the thing about the offensive line, you always need, about 5 to 7 really good offensive linemen, because they do get hurt. and you have to mix and match, pieces all the time on that line. So, the more quality depth pieces that you have, the better off you'll be.
Yeah, no, and you mentioned Nate Davis, and that I even saw this. I saw this list of like top 10 worst free agency signings, and Nate Davis was on there. And so it definitely the Bear either regardless of what happens. I mean, the Bears need some help there, and I think it'll come in one way or another, whether it be free agency or Bates steps in and he's able to have a good season. But
I mean, here's the
go
thing.
ahead.
You said the 10 worst. I mean, I don't really think that's fair to Nate Davis.
Yeah.
Considering what he went through with with his family and whatnot, and this, those are kind of like unforeseen circumstances. It's kind of, I will say that I think this past season was more of an anomaly and not what it's really going to be. I fully expect his play to improve, but I think. Considering what he went through last year personally, I don't think it's fair to call it. I mean, I guess from a business standpoint, you can see it like that, but I'm not gonna put that on.
That's just that's what I'm saying. Some of the lists can be a little bit ridiculous, anyways, in general. But that was just something I saw, and I was like, all right, people actually calling it that as one of the worst ones, if not top 10. Interesting. But obviously with that deal, the Bears let go of a draft pick, which leaves them with a total of 5 now in the upcoming draft. A lot of people really do expect a trade to occur soon, especially like we talked about in last show with Glenn, with the start of the 2024 NFL calendar starting next week. Is that how you guys feel about this trade, that basically this deal is going to lead to another one, and then RyanPoles is his whole strategy is going to come out here soon enough with the calendar coming up? We'll start with you, Joe.
Well, you know what? When you look at that 5th round pick, I don't know if they're going to be able to draft a player in the 5th round that is going to be able to help them in the upcoming season. And I think the Bears are in a situation where they want to be competitive and improve right away. And any 5th round pick that you use is going to be a development piece. And so using it on a guy like Ryan Bates, who's going to come in and who can start right now. And plug in at, any other position on the line and play it, he's a pro's pro. You don't really have to worry about that. I think that is beneficial, to the locker room and to the building of this team. You got to have players that can step on the field and perform at a moment's notice. And so I feel like, using that 5th round pick, people being upset about that probably wasn't going to be a guy that you was going to really, really count on, and give you like, solid production. Ryan Bates is a guy that can do that. And, they still got 2 first round picks. We know that they can get a haul for the number 1 overall pick if that's what they choose to do. And they probably have a few suitors for that number 9 pick as well. So I do think that Poles will end up with more than 5 picks coming up on draft night.
What about you, Shawn? What are your thoughts on that?
Of course, he's going to end up with more picks, and he's trading the number 1 pick. All right, people keep saying, and I love the campaign that the media has. All right, trying to sway one way or the other, trying to sway people toward Caleb, but it doesn't make sense. RyanPoles from Jump Street, the first day he got here, said he was going to build this team through the draft. Okay, he was going to build it through the draft. Here you've been gifted a number 1 spot. You don't need a quarterback. All Justin needs is a competent coach. That's what he needs. Okay, I feel that we've got one. All right, we have 6 picks. And I had 5 reasons why I think Justin's staying. This was number 5. We traded for Ryan Bates, and now instead of 6 picks, we have 5 picks. Do you anticipate building when you have the opportunity? Are you going to go in there with 5 picks in the draft when you have an opportunity to get maybe 7 to 10 picks? I don't think so. All right. When we've seen RyanPoles, how he likes to operate, he loves to trade back when he can. He loves draft picks, and for all intents and purposes, his 1st, 2nd, and 3rd round draft picks have been pretty good, minus Velus Jones, and that could change if Shane Waldron uses Velus Jones to the max of his ability. Then all 1st, 2nd round, and 1st, 2nd, and 3rd round picks from RyanPoles will have hit. Okay. There's going to be more trades. And then with the 9 pick, there's going to be something's going to happen. Someone's going to take a guy, maybe JJ McCarthy jumps up into that top 10, which pushes everybody down. I think the Bears are going to trade that 9 pick as well. You might still be able to get a Brock Bowers. Okay, you still might be able to get an Olu Fashanu. I mean, let's remember if J.J. McCarthy goes up into that top 10, you got the 3 quarterbacks. You got Caleb, you got May, Jaden Daniels, and now J.J. McCarthy. That's 4. Marvin Harrison Jr., 5. Jared Verse, 6. Okay, now, okay, do you go? Who? There's still some great wide receivers there. I say the Bears trade back from 9 to maybe 11 or 12, get an extra pick, and you can still get one of those. I forgot Romeo Dunze. So Romeo Dunze might go up there. So now that's 7, man. And now you still have edge. You still have some edge rushers. You still have. I didn't even mention Olu Fashanu or Joe Alt. I didn't even mention those guys yet. So those guys are going to come off the board. So those guys might still be there. So if you trade back and get another 3rd round pick, or there's a lot to do, and it all depends on how the board falls. But if there's a run on quarterbacks in the top 10, like I think there will be, man, the Bears, you trade that number 1 pick to 3 or 4 or 5, wherever you can get it, and then you trade the number 9 pick. I think you're sitting pretty.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I think the way things are going we talked about it before the show, it almost, with the way RyanPoles, cooks basically. I mean, he's silence. And I think I love to see his strategy and the way things are going. And I'm excited to see where this goes in general. So, but some of the murmurs that were coming out in the last couple of days have been like, hey, is, Austin Eckler a fit for the Bears? Josh Jacobs apparently has interest in the Bears. Do you guys take any interest in, the Bears looking at a spot in the running back? Because I think, me personally, they have a lot of other issues that I feel like should be taken care of before they even consider that part of the team. I mean, they had one of the best rushing teams in the league last year. So in your eyes, how do you guys see that playing out? Do you think they have a chance at a Saquon or something like that? How do you see it, Shawn?
Yeah, they got a chance at him, of course. Whether you want to do it or not, that's a different story. The only solid thing that I heard was from Jason McKee today, who said there's mutual interest between the Bears and Josh Jacobs. And the way he said that is because his agent is Josh Jacobs' agent. Okay. So something like that, there's no question that the validity or source. He got it from the agent, from the people that the Bears called and say that there's mutual interest. I would love a Saquon Barkley, but I don't think, do you want to pay $10 million a year for a running back? I don't think the Bears are in that market. I mean, don't get me wrong. Imagine Justin Fields and Saquon Barkley and Marvin Harrison Jr. and DJ Moore, and what if, God forbid, you're able to get Brock Bowers at 9, 10, or 11, wherever we trade back to off the 9 pick. That is one hell of an offense. All right. So I love it. I just don't think it's feasible. I think it's a luxury signing for them. Unless you make it incentive laden, because if you do, now we're talking. You maybe give them $6 million. All right, a $6 million, contract. If you hit 500 yards, you make another $500,000. You hit 6 touchdowns, you make another $500,000. You know what I mean, or another $1 million, whatever. Just make it incentive laden so it doesn't go against the cap. And man, truth be told, I'd love to see that offense, those skill players that I just mentioned, Justin, DJ Moore, Marvin Harrison, Saquon Barkley, maybe a Brock Bowers. Man, come on now. Now we're cooking with gas. Now we're cooking with gas.
What about you, Joe? Is there anything that stands out to you in that whole running back rumor mill?
You know what? Having a running back at this point does seem a luxury with all the holes that the Bears need to fill, and where they need to improve at. And spending that kind of money on a running back when you need another edge rusher to go opposite of Montez Sweat, when you still need to get a deal done with Jaylon, you might need to sign a free agent wide receiver. You need to get a safety still. Starting free safety. It's a lot of things that the Bears need to do. With that being said, if they want to spend money on Saquon, I wouldn't be mad at it. I don't know, not for $10 million, maybe $8. I'd be okay with $8 million. Make it something incentive lady, like Shawn said. Something that's not really going to count against the books, and you still have money to play with. To get fix some other things. But Josh Jacobs, you know, mutual interest. I still think he's a solid player. The thing about it is, I worry uh, uh, a lot about running backs because when they fall off, they just fall off out of a sudden, and it just comes out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know if Josh Jacobs is at that point yet.
He's only like
I'm kind
25
of
years old, bro. He's only like
yeah,
25,
25
20.
years.
He's
Yeah,
not
25.
old. He just got hurt one year. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I don't even think I would be mad at Josh Jacobs either. I'm not a bit Austin Eckler fan though.
Yeah, no, yeah, with the whole injury bug thing, and not to say Josh Jacobs does get injured quite often as well, but yeah, from that standpoint, I mean, this got a lot of time a guy like Josh Jacobs, and we'll see where the Bears go with that. The final thing I did want to touch on is, of course, a lot of quarterback talk, not only just with the Bears, but a lot of vacancies on other teams, and with the Falcons and all that with the Steelers as well. As much as they have a quarterback there, which of course the rumors are that they're gonna ride with Pickett or ride with Rudolph, one of those guys, which is hard to believe. But is there any particular quarterback you see fitting into these situations? For example, a Kirk Cousins fitting with the Falcons team, or Baker Mayfield fitting with the Steelers, or even Russell Wilson. Of course, the Broncos are not either they're not going to continue with Russell Wilson anymore. So, is there any particular quarterback out there that you think fits on a team in specific? We'll start with you, Shawn.
I think the Bucks are going to stay with Baker Mayfield. Kirk Cousins is going to be kind of like the only guy that you got to figure out where he's going to go. Does Minnesota want him back? Pittsburgh again. It's lying season. So when you hear people, and this is great when people are talking, well, Pittsburgh doesn't want Justin Fields. They're happy with Kenny Pickett. Really? Then why was it a week and a half ago that they were coming off of Kenny Pickett? How many games did he play in that week and a half that changed their mind?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's not good. That doesn't change, right? You make your assessment, all right, as a coaching staff, and you understand what it is you need going into the offseason. That doesn't change in the offseason. Okay. Now, Kenny Pickett didn't get better in the offseason. Like I said, how many games did he play since the season ended that gave people confidence? Okay, so it's lying season. You have to understand people are trying to it's their poker face. They're trying to get to throw you off the scent, give you red herrings, all these different things. So trust me, the market for Justin will be there. The market for Justin is there. Okay. The market for the other quarterbacks is there as well. So I think Baker Mayfield may go back to the Bucks. And then again, where Kirk Cousins goes, I don't know. I mean, maybe he goes back to Minnesota. I don't think so. Maybe the Raiders. I don't know. He's the wild card. He's the key, because after he settles, a whole bunch of people are going to take him off their board, and then they can start going to plan B. So, but I do think Baker Mayfield is going back to Tampa.
What about you, Joe? Anyone in particular stands out to you that will fit?
Really just Kirk Cousins. Coming off that injury, it'd be interesting to see, which team is willing to have him come in and be their starting quarterback. It's real interesting to see where Russell Wilson might end up as well. And it'd be a pretty fairly cheap deal as well, as Denver's still on the hook for all that guaranteed money. So he's not going to cost a lot, for a team that needs a starting quarterback and who has, aspirations to compete right away. I could see Russell Wilson in New York for the Giants, a place like that.
They'd get him for minimum.
Right.
They get him for league minimum.
Yeah, I could see Russell Wilson with Brian Daboll in New York with the New York Giants. I could see that. Kirk Cousins.
Here's a quick question though, real quick.
Uh-huh.
If say that is the case, do they keep Daniel Jones and hope he learns from Russell Wilson, or do they part ways and go and draft another quarterback?
That's QB carousel.
Yeah.
QB carousel, and that's interesting because you raise good points, but I think teams, look to cover up their stitches, with veteran quarterbacks, and bringing those guys in, and I would say that New York Giants is a team that stinks right now that could probably, use some of that, Russell Wilson to kind of get some of that stink off of them. Or even a Kirk Cousins, really. They'd be a viable candidate. So yeah. But yeah, I do Baker's going to stay. Think Baker's going to stay with Tampa Bay. And you raised a good point, about the Steelers. We've heard, Mike Tomlin. He's so enamored with Justin Fields, and he's just, infatuated with his skill set, and all of a sudden, no, they don't want him. Like, it doesn't make sense. A lot of other things that don't make sense is Justin going to the Raiders as well. With Luke Getsy just being hired as the offensive coordinator, a lot of this stuff, it doesn't make sense, and people just come up with just pull these. Sounds like they just pull stuff out their ass, really. When they say some of these things, so it doesn't make sense. It makes you scratch your head and wonder. But definitely, Justin is better than Kenny Pickett, and it'd be a instant upgrade. He's better than Mason Rudolph. And Justin has proven that he can be a starting quarterback in this league, and he still has a very high ceiling, with proper coaching, and the right referee around him.
Yeah, no, and that's the one thing, and I mentioned it, and Shawn has mentioned it too with the Steelers, and the fact that, I mean, man, they better be lying, because, I mean, look at the quarterbacks that are available, regardless of the Justin Fields thing with them, is like, I don't understand why you wouldn't go for Russell Wilson. It's not going to cost you much. You don't have to, you have him on a 1-year deal, minimum deal. It's like literally nothing is stopping. And with the defense they have, with the weapons they have offensively, like it would make no sense for them not to even try to get a Russell Wilson or a guy like Baker Mayfield or Kirk Cousins or anything like that. So, yeah, it's gonna be that carousel is gonna go crazy in the next few weeks to see where these guys are headed, and with the NFL calendar starting next week, gonna be really interested to see where these guys go. But I think that's a good place to wrap things up for this edition of the Bears Den, presented by War Media and Sports Zone Chicago. I want to thank my co-hosts, as always, Sean Sierra, as well as Joe Tanksley, for joining me. Make sure to check out our other shows on War Media, like the At Bad Podcast, Slam Society, as well as Sean and Maya on Sports Zone Chicago, Second City Chicago, and all that, Second City Sports, excuse me. So check that out as well with Lakina and Sydney. For Saul Rodriguez and the Bears Den crew, hopefully everyone enjoys their week, and hopefully the Bears continue to cook. You guys have a good one. Take it easy.
Justin is him.
Peace.